Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today for Bryant Park Consulting's webinar on NetSuite MCP Deep Dive. Today, we'll be reviewing exclusive AI prompts that will be shared with viewers after the webinar. We will begin with a brief overview of Bryant Park for those that haven't worked with us before. We'll review MCP again to provide a refresher or clarify any remaining confusion about the system's integration. We will then conduct a live demonstration of one of our prompt examples and showcase a few others. Finally, we will delve into the NetSuite Analytics warehouse with a brief introduction for those that may not be familiar with it or have used it previously, followed by prompts specialized for that service. My name is Devon Aubert. I'm a manager with the Solution Architecture team, assisting organizations with complex implementation requirements, project planning, and system architecture. I'm joined today by my colleague Jeff Alley, the Director of EPM and Analytics at Bryant Park. He'll be speaking to the capabilities within the NetSuite Analytics Warehouse platform later on. Bryant Park Consulting is one of the largest dedicated NetSuite Alliance partners with a global support team. Our consultants comprise of full-time employees in 18 countries, as we are official partners with NetSuite in three geographies, including North America, Latin America, and the ANZ region for Australia and New Zealand. We specialize in NetSuite implementations as well as in in-house development for the most complex or custom solutions required. We also specialize in EPM services, including NetSuite's planning and budgeting, account reconciliation, and close management tools. We provide a variety of managed services for existing customers, support after go live, and a comprehensive technical team for integrations to any system. We also provide vendor management services for full program management, which is governed by our own in-house PMO and specializes in operational efficiency. Our own organizational change management division offers direct consulting services as well to customers that may not have the expertise in-house or the bandwidth to support some of these changes. And then finally, we also support the NetSuite partners in the ecosystem by assisting with their own development and NetSuite support for their customers. So let's dig into the Model Context Protocol, the MCP. So NetSuite's released a pair of tools that really assist with getting into this space and leveraging the most that you can from the system. The first one is the MCP standard tools. This is a set of modules and libraries that become available to execute within NetSuite. You can customize your own, but the ones that are in there will allow a variety of services that should meet most people's needs. And then that's accompanied by the NetSuite AI Connector Service Companion, which is a suite app of it's over 100 prompts now and growing quite regularly that you can click one time and leverage right away for generating reports and performing all sorts of actions within the system. These are included for every NetSuite customer, so you simply need to go and access the suite app and install it. Recommend working with your administrators to assure that you have the correct permissions before doing so. So on the MCP, it's worth noting where this actually comes into play and how it integrates with the systems. So when we start, we're talking about an end user wanting to perform a task of some kind, maybe generate a report or something else like that. We're going to use Claude in this example as the AI client that is going to receive your request, usually through an app or browser, and then they're going to process and try and interpret what that request is. And they have their own LLM to do that. Now, the output from that is going to be configured in a way that it's going to generate an MCP request. So what this is, it's a standard, it's a protocol, just like HTTP. It's a standard across AI services and allows them to communicate to each other in a consistent manner. So NetSuite has its own MCP connector that you can load into Claude, and it will know how to send requests to NetSuite to be able to achieve the desired result from that request. NetSuite on their side has an MCP server that receives these requests, and then it'll process and run the functions internally on the system, and then send back the output or the results from whatever was requested. Claude then interprets those results and then sends them back to the user. So that's sort of the full life cycle of an MCP request, but really it's step 4 and 5 where the magic happens between the systems that stitches them together. We're still leveraging the power of an LLM to achieve these results. And NetSuite is simply allowing the connections to execute in a controlled manner that doesn't allow rogue data to execute. It still adheres to all the permissions and everything within the system. So what does that mean in NetSuite? So this is an example of what that AI Connector Service Companion Suite app looks like. Once you have it installed, you'll have a variety of prompts available that can be filtered by category, by industry, and even the role that you'd like to restrict them to, or maybe they're already assigned to certain roles to be performed. You can filter through these. You can copy the prompt itself and review it and then copy it into your AI client. Or you can one-click it from the Use Prompt dropdown and it'll populate into Claude or into ChatGPT directly. You can also make a custom version of any one of these. So you can click the Customize button and it'll take you to the next screen where you can modify the prompt and tailor it to your business needs. This is where a lot of the power really comes from. So when you go into one of these prompts, you can either build your own and have it as a way of standardized requests within the system, or you can modify the existing ones so that they are correctly tuned to your company's needs. This is incredibly powerful as a way to have your own repository of company approved prompts that are targeted to the right roles. They cannot be used for people outside of these roles. And there's obviously some more that goes into the planning and release of this, but this ability to manage these prompts, activate and inactivate the ones that you would like to share, is really where the power comes in. So we're going to be showing a little bit of that today. So the first example I'd like to show you is the business card import tool that we've developed here at Bryant Park. The idea is that you're out somewhere and you come across a contact and you get a business card. You can immediately scan that on your phone, or maybe it's a badge with someone's contact details at a conference. And we want that to go into NetSuite and add that contact and immediately set a reminder to reach out to them later on. We're also going to show quickly an expense report audit tool that could compare expense reports against your own company's expense policy. And then Release Note Translator is a tool to help you comb through all of the release notes and see what the impact would be for each role within your own NetSuite instance. So we'll get started here and um, start off in our NetSuite test environment here. So you can see, we've got not a lot of content at the moment, and we're going to start by going into our, where are we here? We're going to go into our AI Companion Tools and open the library. As this comes up, you can see we've got even more prompts than we had in the screenshot, and you can go and see that there are a variety of prompts that can do several services and automations within the system. It's easy enough to filter, and we can find the ones that were created for Bryant Park here. So I can obviously copy, I can use the prompt here and send it to Claude, and I can customize it, and this would open it up into that other screen. This is where you would be able to make those changes as an administrator or someone with the correct permissions, and a lot of power in being able to modify this prompt and be able to tell, how many times it's being used by who in which system. You can make tweaks to any of the instructions within here, choose the category or subcategory that you'd like to be a part of, and have explicit role access defined. From there, we're just going to show how this would execute. So I'm going to click Use Prompt and send to Claude. So the first thing you'll notice is that you get this little alert. It knows that the prompt has come from an external system, so it's making sure you're aware before proceeding with anything. It's copied in the entire prompt here, and we're just going to click Go. Now, it's worth noting that I've already connected to the MCP server. So under my connectors here, the assumption is that you already have NetSuite connected, and this is something you would have to work with your administrator to assure that your user access or user role has the correct permissions to be able to create this connection. Once you do, it'll be able to run these prompts directly into your NetSuite environment. So here it's just setting up a couple values and it's ready to upload our first business card. So I'm just going to take, gotta find it here, business card of Jeff's. And this is something you could obviously do on your phone. the prompt and the logic behind it will work in both browser, desktop, or mobile app. And on the app, obviously, you can take a photo straight in the prompt, and you could have this stored as an artifact that is repeatedly queried. So for now, we're just setting this as a regular prompt request. And as it's processing here, it's going through a few steps. So the first, it's gone through and identified the values for the card. And that's given a level of confidence on the data that's there. So this would work if you had something handwritten or some other notes that you'd like to bring in. And it's telling me some output that it's creating some records. And this is one of those MCP functions that is provided in the MCP toolkit. So this knows that it has some constraints and structure around how it's going to call NetSuite. And when it's creating a record, this is the structure that it's going to use so that it adheres to best practices and is following proper controls. And here it's saying it doesn't like the status for probably the task that's being created. So it's going to look up the fields and go through the variety of steps. So there we go. It's updated. It's import complete. It's giving me the customer ID, the contact, and the task. So we're going to go back to our NetSuite environment here. I'm going to go to our customers. And I can go and see we've added Bryant Park Consulting as a customer. And what's great with this prompt is you could ask Claude to revise it to set them as leads or to set them as as a prospect, or could have them let you choose from a dropdown prior to importing. So here it's brought it in as a status closed one with the web address here. And under my relationships, under my contacts, it's gone and created an entry for Jeff. When I bring that up, I can see that I've got all his contact details, his name, his title, email, and phone number. I can see that he's part of Bryant Park Consulting. And if I go to my tasks now, I've actually got a task that was just added with a due date three days from now, the medium priority, status is not started, and then I can get this onto my reminders. So this is really where a lot of the power from these type of prompts comes from, is simplifying and streamlining processes. This prompt does have logic to deal with duplicate detection as well as data validation. So it can look for correct email address, correct website address, even address format being validated. You can obviously build on this and make it as extensive as you want. Adding custom fields could be linked in here to create some context or enriched data, such as a company summary, if you wanted to be able to have additional data prepared and generated by Claude to populate in these records. So that's our first solution here. And going back, we're going to be just quickly showing the expense report audit. So back into our AI companion tool library, we've created another one for this expense report audit. I'm actually going to click into this and just want to show what the prompt actually looks like. So we have a structure that we've set up where we are defining the role of who's going to be doing this. So you're kind of, presenting the posture that the AI agent is going to be using. We have some configuration. You can add some defaults if you want to kind of try and start. It'll look for these values if you have an example here. Otherwise, it will ask you to fill in what's missing. Then you go through the steps, and the steps will show really what you're doing in each section of the step or the logic that's being built out. So, here we're capturing personal charges, escalations, severity, and everything within that. And then we can copy that into Claude. So showing what that looks like here is once this is generated, you're able to link to your own expense policy. If it's publicly available, you'd be able to upload it as well. And you can see some live output that it's actually providing here, where it's showing the number of exceptions, how many are critical, and can show you who was outside of the limits within your expense policies and what the detail was. So a single line of 890 in meals and entertainment exceeds the auto escalation threshold. So it's highlighting all of these that could be researched, clicked into, and get access. And this is just really a baseline of where you could start and filter through to be able to just do some review against your expense reports. Another solution was around release notes. So this is something I think a lot of people stress about. And when it comes to the biannual or sorry, semi-annual release from NetSuite, the notes are usually over 100 pages long. There is a lot of data to comb through. And so we created a little prompt here to help you identify which features and functions actually will impact your system and which users. It's sometimes hard to tell from the technical documents. So if we take a look at this solution here, once it runs, it'll connect to your system and actually ingest the release notes for the latest change and compare your version against what's coming up. And it will highlight the total changes of what's being impacted, what are new features versus enhancements, and even breaking changes, and call out whether there's anything to be actioned or not. Obviously, this is just as a guide, but it should help because it's going to look at your system of what's actually being used and the relevance and the roles that are even impacted because it could change your SOPs for an individual. The main thing is that this should speed up the ability for you to quickly see if there's anything that you should call out immediately, and then either work with your internal team or your managed service provider for NetSuite support. So this is just another example of one of the prompts. We'll be sharing the prompt detail for the 3 prompts that we had, and they're ready to be used today. From here, I will hand it back to Jeff or over to Jeff, and he will be walking through the NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Devon. I appreciate the time today, folks, to also be able to talk a little bit about MCP and what that means in the context of NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. I'm going to focus on 2 quick examples I'll pull up and show you as a part of what the solution is and how it works. The first will be focused on commissions, where and how it helps provide better analysis, insight into that data, but also to how it can help perform reconciliation, validation in context to looking at multiple schemas, whether it's commission plans and structures against transactional detail. Then secondarily, I'm also going to look at product profitability and looking at this by promotion or campaign, how we tie investment to return as a part of those activities and how MCP within SAW helps you do that. Before I jump in, I do want to quickly talk about what NetSuite Analytics Warehouse is if you are not already familiar. NSAW is a prepackaged data warehouse analytics layer that allows me to not only leverage a prepackaged data pipeline and data model from NetSuite, but also to my ability to extend that to other data sets and integrations as well, whether it's through prepackaged data connectors, light ETL tool capabilities that are prepackaged in there as well. But this allows me to have a more flexible framework to create joint and blended data models and schemas as a part of that process, and only helps extend in relation to that MCP value and how and where that ties into the use of these functions within the organization. So with that, I will quickly pivot to an example here inside of Claude. So as we're talking about that commissions use case, here is one of our prepackaged prompts as a part of commissions. This is where I can define the role, the context in which I'm looking at this analysis. You can tie this obviously in context to your sales organization, but I want to be able to evaluate the accelerators. I want to look at the ramp up of compliance in relation to that acceleration and schedules, split deals, when and where there are multiple reps working on those deals, setting and establishing thresholds. Commissions is one of those areas that has a ton of variability, and especially around managing commission plans in conjunction with the transaction detail. Having those validation steps in relation to that process is very important. Secondarily, too, being able to have a better understanding of where are we having a higher concentration within our actual transactional activity, and obviously seeing that on a trend basis. So as I scroll down to be able to apply this and run this prompt, This is where I can see everything I would need in that CFO dashboard. So I can see this for individual sales reps. I can see this in context of different concentration. Down here, I have the ability to also see that tier accelerator status. So as I'm looking at this for John Johnson as an example, I can see what that trend has been across the year so far, where he's hit those accelerators, what that's translated to in relation to commission payout, overall sales that have triggered those accelerators as a part of that process in conjunction with the commissions themselves. Secondarily, I can also see and run a compliance analysis. This is where I can do a view of what's been paid. I can look at this on a transaction basis. Does this align in relation to the anticipated share that's expected between Mr. Johnson and Mr. Scott? I can see I had a 50-50 split. Yes, these tie and reconcile. There's nothing exceeding the 100% commission allocation that we're anticipating, as well as two for outlier use cases. Maybe again, there's an example here for a transaction where I had an 80%, 12% split versus a 20 and 10% split as a part of that process. So again, a nice way to have validation when you have a more complex incentive model in that capacity. This also allows me to do deeper insight in relation to concentrations, whether it's across product, services, customer bases, market analysis, as a part of applying that data and in conjunction looking at this across multiple data sets in conjunction with what I'm seeing out of NetSuite. And then obviously too, being able to see what does that historically mean in context to the trends and analysis for that commissions, sales progress, and at the end of the day, overall compliance. Now, secondarily, as I mentioned as well, there are also alternative ways to be able to tie in other analysis to areas such as being able to look at product profitability by different promotions. Being able to tie those types of marketing activities to expenses to revenues can always be a balance in relation to making sure you understand how the schemas are aligned and obviously to how they apply in relation to what's being used in NetSuite, how the information is getting applied in relation to the reporting and analysis. Here's an example where we have those data tables aligned as a part of that process. And this is where I can define and identify which of our transactions had a promotion associated to them, which of them, how much revenue did that total? And then also to be able to drill in to see what does that actually mean. When we look at this, I can see the different promotion types, costs, transaction volumes, what types of products were associated, revenue, and at the end of the day, all the other metrics that would be critical in regards to doing that review and analysis. Because at the end of the day, we want to utilize this as a proxy to help determine where do we need to double down on investment, where do we need to back off on investment as a part of this process. So being able to quickly and dynamically look across multiple data sets, schemas as a part of that process, gives us flexibility to also apply this across different types of analysis. To the end of the day, being able to look at this in relation to an ROI waterfall, where we can see internet is paying off, but posts are not. So we need to be able to look at that in relation to where and how we have that activity so we can really focus on how and where that applies to not only that profitability, but also too, as we look at this in relation to our products and inventory planning, demand and supply planning as a part of that process as well. Hopefully that gave you a good sense of the functionality and capabilities of how MCP also works with NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. Just to recap, our goal is to help our customers unlock the value of AI. But at the end of the day, we still want to ensure that we have a focus on security, accuracy, and practicality for your business. So thank you all so much for your time today. If you are interested in learning more around how we can help you all get more out of your ecosystem when it comes to AI and MCP, please do not hesitate to reach out to Devon or myself, as well as there is a QR code here as well on how you can get in touch with us. Thank you all for the time today and look forward to hearing from you soon.